Hello. Today we are talking, the royal we, are talking about multi-instrumentalism, being a multi-instrumentalist. Um, I am one, and currently we are at the piano, residing at the piano as I'm injured. I have, you can see a little bit there, had a surgery for removing a growth. Let's see, we're awaiting information on what that growth is, but we've had some surgery. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot of right hand practice, and I am relieved to be able to do so, and saved by it. My mental state is saved by being at the piano and or singing if I choose to do so. But as is often the case when you've had something traumatic occur to your body, sometimes your voice is not where you want to be. But for me, I leave that there. Even though I have done quite a lot of singing, but that was in a singing capacity. It wasn't in Isn't it interesting? I'm about to say singing capacity as opposed to expressing capacity. When I'm singing, tend to be singing music as opposed to expressing myself. So why I put that into different categories, do you know, but it's not. It was just I knew I was going for something functional. I had to do something functional. So I was very intentional with why I was singing. Right. That's, well, that is part of it actually, the singing. Yeah, it's not a diversion, it's part of it. But the piano being my primary go-to when I need the freedom. Yeah, and knowing many people who inform me that they're not multi-instrumentalists, people are always telling me they're absolutely not. I never believe them, but I believe they may not have tried, or I believe piano might have pissed them off, or exhausted them, or they had a bad teacher, or they weren't introduced to it, wherever it is. But that's what I choose to believe. I think playing lots of different instruments is an illusion. I think it's the same energy, just moving around the different instruments. You see what I mean? It's the same energy. It just takes that form, and it takes that form, takes that form. And it doesn't disturb me. I think it's probably the reason why I still continue to play. Yeah, I think because you get kind of rebooted every time you go back to what one would assume is the main instrument, or whatever. You've had the experience of going around the other instruments and getting a little bit of energy from each of those things. Or that could be an explanation. Other than I love music, and I like creating sound that isn't my voice as much as I like the sound of my voice. So yeah, so when people say, I know that, yeah, it's stressful having to do, as a kid, practicing those instruments. If you're not into that, it's stressful having to manage it. 2 lots of practice, or 2 or 3 lots of practice. Time-wise, the expectation's high to do well on both. I know getting into Guildhall, you needed a second instrument to get onto the course that I went on to. I don't know if you needed that for performance course, maybe not. I've enjoyed having a career that was suited. Now, I speak in the past tense, it's not over. But as I get older, I feel that most of my career has been around performing and public display of my talents. I think that's quite a funny concept. And having been off work for a couple of weeks and having not been playing with this hand, I really had a chance to examine what it is to be a musician that doesn't physically play, despite the piano practice I've been doing. As my identity in the last few months, or the last year, has been mainly at Covent Garden on various fiddles. To not be doing that, it's almost like I had to downshift gears into just a still state to deal with the initial kind of shock and surgery, and then shift up into a different place to reside at the piano. And I say reside because it does feel like home. It's always been the primary entry point, besides recorder, which I thought was just not a funny joke, and recorder players do, excuse me, just a strange thing to give to a lot of people in the 70s. I think it's just too much. I personally think it's too much to give to a group of people all that. But I mean, I've never taught recorders, so that's not to. Well, I taught to one person, but to singular, individual lessons, but not like group lessons. Sounds bonkers, but group lessons to me, again, that's another thing. It just is a bit bonkers to me, but it's okay. Right, stay on the path, stay on the track. So I've got to laugh. Laughing. Mr. Hurd, a tall guy, quite, I wouldn't say severe, but very serious guy. I'm sure tweed was involved, and it wasn't a posh school, but it was a church school. I'm sure there's a waistcoat underneath that jacket. He was very, very upright. He was I think he was the tallest among the tallest. He was quite old as well. He would have been in his 50s or 60s even then. So he, serious. Was he the deputy head or just some strange guy? Anyway. Residing at the piano. The piano has always been HQ, the base, the ground zero, the base point. If I'm working anything out, like harmonically or even melodically, it's the vision of the keyboard, the notes on the keyboard, the increments of the keyboard. Now one could, if someone gives you, if you're working out a melody, you can imagine it on your hand on the fiddle. But it's not. It's still quite abstract. And I translate the piano to the hand from the ear. That's it. So from the ear to the piano and to the inner piano. So the piano's always been there. So it's nice to come home. That's what I'd say. It's nice to come home. It's nice to be singular. It's nice to be playing on your own in the bosom, in the envelope or the pocket of silence, as a playing in a group with a background noise, because where I play is generally quite noisy. If you're lucky, there's a lot of audience and a lot of visual noise, as well as like things going off. And to play into and out of silence, it's like what I'm left with is the ongoing chatter in the mind, and getting used to silencing the mind, because when there's so much going on, you can't really hear all the voices in one's mind. I can hear the one that's directing me musically and functionally within the group and within that environment. I can hear what I'm required of myself, or I can hear my own dialogue with myself about what I want to happen or what I need to happen. Being here, practicing here, intrusive voices, concerns about other things, thoughts coming in, battling other thoughts coming in has been very interesting. Because I'm like, oh, I don't have this problem. I don't really have it. Once I'm at the piano, I've always just been at the piano. It's always just been what I'm working on, whether I'm listening, transcribing something, whether I'm reading, whether I'm improvising, memorizing tunes, whatever it is, I'm always with the thing. So I don't know if that's because of the particular state I'm in. I don't know if that's a hormonal thing. I don't know if that is... yeah, I put it down to stress. I put it down to age. I put it down to this particular situation that I'm in with my hand, and that just trying to plan for things, planning forward for things, trying to plan forward, reminiscing or thinking back over time, the journey to this point. Always, so I could guess that there's a lot of things going on, but being at the piano has probably kept me mentally in the best place I could have been kept in, and reacquainting myself with the piano as regularly throughout the day, just hopping on and hopping off. I feel like it's reconfigured me back to where I was, back to that's not even a song, is it? Back to my original position. That's all I can say. I think as a child practicing the piano, and as somebody, I had a flashback to remembering when my identity was the piano, around 7 or 8, possibly 9 or something. No, 9 or 10. This flashback was. I remember the feeling of I am with me. It's me and the piano. I associate myself with the piano. I did identify myself with the piano, and it was like having a physical, like a bear. I don't know. I wasn't a very dull person, but I had a bear. Having a bear or having a toy or having a pet or something. It was almost like I could the way I felt about it. I could just have it there, hold it there, and just go about my business if I wasn't by the piano or something. So that feeling's returned, and that's a lovely feeling. It's very secure. It's very friendly, a friendly feeling. I mean, I'm very fond of inanimate objects, so I will. Is it I can't remember the word is, but make them not human, but I would give them life, and for me, physical inanimate objects are quite alive. The piano is very obviously alive. The instruments are very obviously alive with their own. So maybe that's another thing. As I am a hermit, I like to spend my time alone, other than when I'm surrounded by musicians. And I'm surrounded by musicians because I don't want to talk to people. I've said it. That's right. I want to make music, but I don't necessarily want to be chatting a load of shit. Do you know what I mean? Now, no offense, and none taken, because I chat a lot of shit, so I can give as good as I get, as you could imagine. But I like the non-verbal state of being with people, and it's preferable. What is that? What am I going on about? Dialogue with the piano, I guess. Being in dialogue with the piano. And silencing the internal verbal dialogue, just the running commentary of things and whatever. And it's not even the critique of, you're not playing this right, or I don't suffer from imposter syndrome or whatever those things. I think, luckily enough, or too old there's evidence, too much evidence to the contrary. I don't know. Maybe I've got my head around that. I'm all right with all that. So I don't have those conversations in my head. But as I say, all the side quests of the trivia of life and the stuff you can't control and all that stuff like that. So I wonder how if people, without substances, how they contend with all that. But and I don't care, because it's like, what can you? Everybody's in their own personal headspace, aren't they, at any given point? But I do wonder. But I'm, just bringing it back to center. Different instruments. I think different instruments have different personalities. So either they represent the different elements of my nature. Certainly in the string quartet, the cello is probably my favorite, even though I'm least capable. I think it probably matches my personal rambunctiousness or whatever. Rambunctious. I think it matches my joy of life and the kind of energy that I have more than anything. Even I love it, and I've tried practicing it more often, but I get injured quite quickly because I'm not, haven't developed those muscles. One would say slow practice, have lessons little and often, but then life takes over, and then for a couple of weeks at a time you're more on the violin, and just more work and more playing just tires out all of these things. And the cello, massive drain on physical resources, beautifully so, but you feel it, you know about it. Do you know what I mean? You know about it every day, and especially if you do 8 sets a day or something. A couple of days, you definitely, when you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, you have to decide what what limb's gonna move. I'm laughing at myself. You have to decide on choreography your body. You do, because it's just like, okay, So there's that thing of, getting older and having to be match fit and stretched out and warmed up, and oh my God, it just goes on. But the piano, back to the piano. I want to talk about the piano. Yes, as the kind of the center of the tree of instruments, harmonically, the first port of call, even though I think probably quartet playing has taken over in terms of my ability to hear different voices. And now I going back to the piano, I can see the violin, viola, cello, bass. Do you know what I mean? I can see the different voices. That helps. But fugue playing, I think probably growing up doing quartet playing and growing up playing fugues, they're symbiotic in that sense, in that the one feeds the other and all that kind of thing. It's quite cyclical. It's not, can't really separate that. But it's lovely to be back here, and it's lovely to direct the flow of energy and to be intuitive and tempo wise with what you're playing, and to be able to pull things about more. Now I try and make what I play at Covent Garden have quite habitual, so people know what I'm going to do. And there's a couple of obvious choices. I might go there, but not thousands of. I don't try and keep it fresh. I do not try and keep it fresh. It may be fresh sometimes, but I don't know why. Because one's duty is sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can. Sometimes you can't. I don't try to. I try and energize myself. But I think sometimes you can fiddle with something too much. You know what I mean? You can meddling, trifling. And I think also if people know how much energy they need to summon up for the half an hour, I think it's easier than. But I think other people, and maybe sometimes myself, like to mix and match because they get bored and they like to mix it up a bit and be surprised and like, oh yeah, oh, and they get energized by Lucky Dip and all that kind of thing, and a bit of bingo going on with what pieces are playing, whatever, depending on who's playing, what pieces are, what time of day it is, how the audience is, how it's been, how it's going, blah blah blah, all the variables. The cello, yeah, but again, I love the bass sound. We used to go to choir practice with my dad. I don't know how I ended up sitting next to my dad, him being the bass and me being the soprano. I guess I just sat next to him because I sat next to him when I was quite young. And we just sat down. Probably in the earliest stages, and as I got older, I probably would gravitate to whatever, the altos or the sopranos. But yeah, I'm sitting next to my dad singing the bass. Now, I guess it was, if I'm singing the melody and he's singing the bass, and we're sitting next to each other, then you've got that great information of what these two things are doing, right? And it really is, especially in singing, anyone who sings in choirs or sings with another person, it's a fabulous, it's 4-part harmony. You might hate the reasons why you're there, like church was quite boring, not gonna lie. You have to wait, in order to, the price you pay to sit on the choir is that you have to sit through sermons and services. It's quite agonizing for most of the time. But it was almost worth the price. And also you understood the context of how the music affected the people or the environment, blah, blah, blah. So it was good grounding. And my dad loved Bach, and he loved Handel, and all those things, Saints Crucifixion, Handel's Messiah, and the cantatas and the psalms and the hymns, and he loved all of that. I would say he was obsessed. He played the organ, and he was self-taught. He self-taught himself the piano and the organ, and actually pretty damn good for self-taught. Pretty damn good. He was a bit wild, especially when he liked to, like the fifth verse of a hymn, or probably the third verse, really. He'd be right, both ends at either end of the piano, both hands at either end of the piano going crazy. He would make a good evil villain, I think, on the keyboard coming out of... He wouldn't care, he'd just be playing and be very happy about it. That and holding your own, basically. That joy of being in that singing environment, taking in the bass because it's somebody familiar to you as well, and a voice that's familiar to you, whilst you're singing the treble, the soprano, and then singing quartets, and especially on the viola, because viola I started violin when I was 9, switched to viola when I was probably 11 or 12 or something like that. First year, wasn't second year, was it? First year of secondary school. And then growing up as a viola player and not really understanding that I had the capacity to be violin, I had the capacity to do more. I just sat passively as a viola player for the next couple of decades or something, just watching people. And because you could look at a line, the viola lines are so simple, and people don't know how to write for viola, so they simplify it or they double it with things, whatever, or they say you just do your own thing. So you can spend a lot of time playing the viola, either looking at the line and memorizing it as you go along, and then looking up and watching other people, so you don't have to actually be stuck to the page, or making it up, or remembering what it is because it's, to say, relatively simple, and going into the profession of session musician or pop musician, whatever it was in the 90s that I went into, TVs and filming, touring and miming in TVs and stuff like that. A lot of the time it's not challenging. What you're asked to do is not musically gonna be above grade 4, grade 5 or whatever at a push. It's just not. Every now and again you might get a challenge, but not really. And so you could just observe other parts. So and anything that was more interesting, whether it was like drums and bass, if you were with the, or the backing vocals or whatever. Sadly, it was hardly ever the main artiste in the pop thing, unless they're famous and you could be enamored with them. But not necessarily their skill. But as you know, fame and talent don't necessarily run together. I'm going to leave that before I get bitchy. Other musicians, other parts, other elements going on. You can do what you're doing, and you can observe how what you're doing fits into the whole. But then you can look at other people's what they're doing, and be like, okay, that functions this way. So all the time, analyzing, and just sort of logging in what other parts do, logging in what the cello does, especially in quartet. If you've got rest, or you've got quite a passive part or whatever, all your job is to support the cello or support the second or the first. You are in that it's a very feminine role. You're just facilitating or highlighting, or you're the shadow or the kind of sketch. You know what I mean? Enabling something else to come forward, or to bring out something, to enhance something, or to bring out something, and. It's a very interesting place to reside. It's a fabulous place to be, but a place of observation. So then, after a while, the cello came out of being at Covent Garden, the cellist not turning up, and I think I mentioned that before, I don't know where. And it's like, God, even if we could have done X, Y, and Z, it would have been better than not having any cellist at all. And after saying that so many times, it's like, well, I'm gonna do Pachelbel's canon, which is not as easy. Not as easy as it looks. You can slip out. I'm not gonna say any more than that. So the desire, the motivation, the intention, that is a good point. What is your intention when you're learning another instrument? Or if you choose, because you got to, so money was the intention. It's like, I need to make this money, or I need to not lose money. I can't make any less money. We're not going to make, do you know what I mean? I can't make zero money. So we're going to make more than 1 pence. So we're going to be in the plus if there is some kind of cellist sitting in that chair doing some kind of job. And painful as that may have been to my colleagues, having put me through the embryonic stages of all that, having to just put up with it. Bless them. I'm not wrong. A bad cellist is better than no cellist. A good cellist is better than a bad cellist. A phenomenal cellist is a dream. An incredible cellist changes everything. It's very fertile energy. Just being buoyed up on that can really change everybody's mood. But the intention, having intention behind it, or having, I guess, a timeline. So there's a show on that day, or I'm going to play the cello then, so I need to at least get this together. Okay, I messed that bit up last time, so I can't mess that up again, and I'm playing that. So there's this thing of kind of being held accountable and having a timeline on things. A big motivator. And then you're going to get paid as well. You can get paid more if you play better, or if you're more familiar, or if you're not reading the music and you're performing the music outwards, and you can do it confidently and convincingly enough. So to hold that position and just to be functional. Functionality. And then you choose to pretty it up, as they say, make it look any better or sound any better. But functionality, intention on all the instruments it's like, what do I need this instrument to do, and when do I need it to be done by? If I'm making a video with the bass and it's one line of music that's going to last, I don't know, 15 seconds, will be repeated or something, like as a groove or something like that, then I can just sit with something for half an hour, and because I've designed it, it will settle into place, and that will be enough to make a video. So, don't get confused. I'm not a bass player, but I can play the bass. If I need to play the bass in Covent Garden, I've tuned it to down to fifths. So I'm playing the cello part. So I'm doing a variation of a large cello. The cello is an upside down viola. So I'm just building on the knowledge that I've got. Do you see them? I'm building on the knowledge that I already have, and taking that as far as I can take it with the physicality, with what I'm physically able to do with my body, and the time I've got to learn it, and the information that do you see what I mean? So it's not a case of, you're not just going into a place cold. With a guitar, I'm confident that I know how to feel where my fingers are. I know where my fingers are, and is it proprioception or whatever it is, where at the end of my body, my fingers are there. They will generally go where I want them to go, because I've been telling them to go places for a long time. So looking at all those strings, even though it's a kind of ball ache and it's a bit of a headache, and it's like 6 strings, but I also had a 6-string violin for a long time, so I can't really argue with whether or not I can cope with 6 strings. And then the sound, it's a dopamine hit, isn't it? The sound is so rewarding, to get the sound of a nice chord, or the line, or contrapunct, whatever it is. It's so pleasurable that you want to give. It's a dopamine hit, isn't it? So you want the pleasure of the sound. So you just focus on getting that and sustaining that, as opposed to, I can't do it, or I shouldn't be doing it, or, oh God, people are going to laugh if I do this, or, oh my God, how can I pull this off? If you get into that kind of ego, negative stuff, you'll just get caught in those conversations. If you stay in the land of the free, in the beauty of sound, and in cultivating a sound, and enjoying the colours, or wherever that new sound, whatever, can't say synesthesia. What does that sound when it's correct enough? What does it create? What else does it create? Do you know? How do I perceive it? As well as what it is, the sound and the feeling. I'm gonna perceive it in different ways as well, like colours and textures, and it's gonna reside somewhere else. Like when I play the violin, it resides somewhere else. When I play the cello, it, where I feel it in my body, or what place becomes energized with the frequencies of the instrument is different for each instrument. And also, coming back to the piano, you're locked into it. You're facing it, and you're not holding it, for one, which is very nice, not gonna lie. And it's immediately in front of you, as opposed to an audience being immediately in front of you, or other musicians being immediately in front of you, which, quite frankly, I'm gonna say is imposition. It's invasion. It's an invasive experience, having people always in front of you when you're trying to do something very difficult. It's not pleasant. Now, one would say that's just the way it is. Get over it, and that's the joy of it's lovely for the audience. Don't care. Horrible. I remember when I first used to perform violin solo. Oh, horrible feeling of in my stomach, of vulnerability. I almost felt hollow, like there's a hole where that whole abdominal area, like there was a hole and people could see through. I felt, and because your violin is up, you're so exposed. Oh, I think that feeling was really disturbing. Why would I expose my core to a bunch of people who are, and you know what? It's not even a negative of baying. It's not baying. Was it baying crowd? Or they're not baying for blood. People who want you to do well. I've never been in situations where I felt people didn't want me to do well. I never felt like people are just like waiting for me to, fuck up or something. Never, not at all. But I have been in many situations where people just want you to do well, and they're just like, oh, there's so much love, or there's so much anticipation. That is a lot. That's too much for me to tell you the truth. That kind of, and I don't know. Maybe that's a response to me looking petrified. So maybe I don't know. Chicken and egg, where that starts, or genuine curiosity and my perception of their facial expressions. I don't know. Because in that moment, you don't know. As a young kid, you don't know. I'm surprised I didn't. I don't think I'm learned the art of dissociation at that stage. I could have done with it by then, but it's so kind of white hot fire flame, horrendous. Ooh, that lasted. It was never did anything solo, put myself forward, until I got to Covent Garden, which would have been when did I start playing violin? I don't know, the cello was 10 years ago. But I think I did the first violin after cello. I don't know. Can't remember. So the last 10 or 15 years anyway. But I would say less than that, maybe half of that. And definitely the last 2 to 3 to 5 years of playing first violin. Yeah. And then COVID, so lost the whole plot of timeline. But learning to stand there and take all the energy, take the positive energy, just ignore the negative. I don't know. Don't perceive the negative energy, but just take the positive energy. The negative energy tends to come from yourself. Or I missed that shift, or I played badly, or dropped my bow, or whatever it is. But even then, it's passing, because there's things to do. There's other pieces. There's other things. There's no indulgence. You just got to right. And also there's nothing. I mean, now people are recording it and it goes on YouTube or whatever it is. But I mean, there's not really any major loss if you mess up. Just tough. It's like, bad luck. Okay, next time get back on it. And if it's repeatedly in the same area, you're like, okay, I have to practice that. And so often you have something and you lose it. Like, I could play that bit in spring, now I can't play it. So that's down to practicing, down to relaxing, down to not overworking, all kinds of things. But yeah, being exposed and being able to handle that level of being perceived. It's a lot. I don't like being perceived at all. So to put yourself in a situation where you're is a high, but understanding what the role of the first violin is relative to the viola, it's always relative to the viola. It's like, oh, if I was a viola player in this situation, I would really want the first violin to do that, or I would really require this energy from the first violin. So I just think about what I've wanted when I felt like first violins have been lame, or a bit flat, or a bit lackluster, or just a bit non-committal, or whatever. It's just like, oh, don't do that. Because we're relying on you, because that's what people hear. That's people's first port of call. Why am I going on about this? Can't believe I've lost the thread. But cello, choir, piano, dialogue, internal dialogue, multi being, the energy just going from where instruments reside, the energy of each particular instrument resides. Synesthesia. It's all aspects of my nature. Each instrument is aspects of my nature that I'm either more or less familiar with. The cello is not a lot to do with my humor, my sense of humor, which I think is extremely good. I don't know. So good. Promise myself I wouldn't make myself laugh too often. My sense of humor is a survival mechanism, and it really has got me through. So it's very well developed. So to transfer that onto the cello, it's almost like it can't wait to go somewhere else. It can't wait. It can't wait to exist in a different form. That's what that is. I've got a flute, which I haven't played that often. That is a lot about a softness and a gentleness and a safety and a more of a feminine state that I don't get to occupy, more in a spiritual state that I don't spend much time in. Therefore, I don't play the flute that much. Which is a shame and something to rectify, quite frankly. I was looking to sell the flute. Right? And I thought, well, you need to polish that bad boy, right? So I rang the shop up and I said, how much? How much does it cost to polish a flute? Because I don't know. You know what I mean? They said anywhere between. You can't just get a flute polish. You have to have a whole thing done, like a whole tune-up, like a whole MOT. Anywhere between $350 and $500. I was like, excuse me? But if I wanted to sell the flute, then they would do that and take that money off the price of the flute, right? So there's the incentive, as it were, if they can sell it. But I'm just thinking, I don't know that world of repair. I know the world of repair regarding strings, and that's horrifying. Bow rehairs, the price of rosin. It's for a working class black woman. I'm telling you, it is. I still don't believe it. It is unbelievable. It is. I am in a state of disbelief at what that is all about. But I've just numbed myself to it, and I just make sure that my instrument is not precious. I'm not precious about it. I very on occasion blow the rosin off the top, and you don't see me do that often. And everybody knows there's a graveyard of rosin about that much thick on all of my instruments. And it's not, but I don't care about the instrument. It's that I'm transcending the instrument, darling. I'm transcending. My viola obviously is the most precious. It was a new build. It was a fresh instrument back in 19. And so I was the first person to play. So everything about it is me, and that's a different thing. Cello's the same. Actually, cello, violin, and they're all new instruments, but they haven't got the emotional history that the viola has. Why is that significant? I can't remember. But not being too precious about it, so that repairs, I pick and choose what repairs need to be done. Now, on the violin, I need a new bridge, so that needs to be done. But since I'm not playing it, and I need to rehair. Since I'm not playing those things, they're not urgent, which not compared to just bills and rent and whatever it is. They're not gonna figure right now. But also knocking an instrument around means you can be more concerned with the performative aspect of street performance, as opposed to worrying about making sure that your instrument is okay, and protecting it from random spinning fiddle players who have got no balance. So on that note, this is the first, possibly of many more or more excursions into why not be a multi-instrumentalist. Why not? Oh, I know composers often end up playing lots of instruments because necessity, you know. Jack of all trades. I know there's a larger phrase to all of that. That makes it actually, that qualifies why it's good to be Jack of all trades. I'll find that phrase. But it's not really. It appears to be lots of different things, but it's just one thing expressed in different ways. That's how I see it. It's the same energy, but taking that form. The energy now takes this form, and I'm now going to do this, I'm now going to do that. It's the same energy, just taking, it's a different facet, just taking a different form and having a different role, occupying a different space. So I don't see it as a problem. And I've looked at this a lot and mourned it and grieved, like, why not, why haven't I? But actually, if it wasn't music, and it was something else, like art or writing or clay modeling, or, you know what I mean? There's so many things, other things that I do, that it feels like the same energy, but other things. So it doesn't matter. It's your essence. So that is my essence. It is my essence to try other things and to put energy into other things, and then to have had enough of it, or for things to need to kind of sit and marinate or ferment, or whatever it is. Things need to sit, and then whilst they're sitting, it's like, oh, let me just go there. Or you're doing something and something else is just like tapping you on the shoulder. It's or a situation, you know, the phone rings and they say, can you do this? You just say yes, and you go and do it. Or can you teach this? Or so-and-so's not here. Okay, I'll play the bass line on the viola then, or whatever it is. Just get it done, dispatch and move on. So execute. Is that drop and roll or something? Drop and roll. That's how I see it. So that's my explanation. I'm dribbling, so I got excited about the cello or the sound of the string quartet. Since I haven't been around it, just talking about it, I can hear it. And it's kicking off out there, isn't it? A bit Hill Street Blues. I can hear. Is it sonority? I can hear that sound. It's great. It's the texture of it. It's very sinewy, very chewy. And I can hear my brain reorganizing itself to, like, I'll put something on. When my hand was really bad, I put on a lot of string quartets, because I just the discussion with my hand was, we've got things to do. This is what because I don't actually haven't listened to as much Haydn as I liked. Listened to quite a bit of Mozart. Could do with listening to a lot more composers, but I just thought, oh my gosh, Haydn, why not? So for the first, actually it was for the first couple of weeks waiting for the appointment with a specialist, and after, for those 2 weeks, because you don't know, it's just like, why is it taking 2 weeks? I mean, this is not a heart problem or internal organ problem or a brain problem or it's not internal or a leg. I've got my right hand, I'm right-handed, life is going on, but has been extremely distressing, and it was all about finding ways to regulate the system, regulate the nervous system, and try and get back to not normal, but a state of functioning and not panicking. And actually, just hearing string quartet music was so normal. I think it did the job. Just having that on all day, every day, and just listening to the different lines and stuff, and listening to the relationships, and listening to the texture. Oh my God, it's great. But I can hear. So that's a nice clean recording in a quiet room, which is different to hearing, Covent Garden, as I say, all the kind of things that around before the music starts and during and after. There's a lot more things going on. But it's a beautiful thing, man. And I hope they're doing well there. I hope the shows are going well, because we're now in good season. The sun is shining, and things are good. So hopefully I'll be back there sooner than later. I hope so. But in the meantime, piano is the key. Forgive the pun. And I'm saved by the multi-instrumentalism. I leave that there. Have a good day, evening, night, morning, whatever you're doing. Have a good one. Take care of yourself. Keep practicing and try a different instrument. Just saying.